Wait, what? Really? Okay.
Okay, with your host, Loren Weisman.
This is a fully licensed theme song for the show about stuff that makes you say, wait, what? Really? Okay.
This is Loren Weisman, and this is Wait, What? Really Okay, a brand messaging podcast. I'm a brand messaging strategist, and today's topic is strategic patience and pressure when preparing a launch. This is around the idea of the organization after a brand discovery, as you begin to do your process architecture, laying out the blueprint and deciding on the plan of action and the time of action. Across this podcast, I'm going to run through this stuff real quick. I'm going to touch on the team, the time, the temperature, the tactics, and the taste before launching a business, a service, a show, a podcast, a product, whatever. In the middle of launching a business, or in the middle of building a business and deciding how to launch, we have a lot of hearsay coming from a lot of different angles. We have a lot of truth. We also have a lot of expired truth or unrelatable truth. Now, it's not that it is not true. It's something can be objectively true that was shared with you about how a business was started or a product was launched, a podcast, a TV show, a movie. But if it's an unrelatable truth because they took it down a path where there was certain finances in place, certain things going on around it, then it becomes a different story. And to follow that model is going to lead you down a path that will not work for you most likely. It bothers me, and this goes back to music, and it goes back to a lot of other businesses where people explain not their story in humility and in the opinion of the things that they experienced that made it happen, but they shift it from the subjective to the objective, and they state this is how it works for everyone. And that is absolutely objectively incorrect and wrong. It worked for them that way, and that's beautiful, and that's great, and it's great to tell that story. But when that story is shifted to an objective reality and a directive to tell everyone to do it just like that, it's irresponsible on the part of that person putting that information out or trying to sell that process to others because it doesn't include all the other metrics, the time that went in, the budgets, the temperature of what was happening. Even the taste, I know that sounds weird, but the taste and the flavor of everything in a circumference to allow certain projects, certain businesses, and certain services to break through at certain times. I'm like so many other people. I love a success story. I love to hear about someone taking something, taking a dream, it being executed, it becoming successful. I don't fault anyone for that. My problem is that when people take a model and don't show with humility the metrics and the other elements that are going on, to me, that's irresponsible. It's not helpful. And then you've got these certain coaches, not all coaches, but they're stating, well, this is exactly how you have to do that. And then they begin to showcase examples that can relate in no way whatsoever. There was a particular song that was about to come out on a particular year. I'm not going to dig too far into it. I was tied to it a bit. In the release of that, it was held off. Something was about to come out. A whole bunch of big things happened. It was paused. It was repackaged. It was organized. There was some patience, and then it was launched at the right time, with the right team, at the right temperature, using moral connective tactics and pushing out just a little bit so it didn't come off exploiting. And in that, it was incredibly successful. Now, had that song been launched a year before or a year after, it never would have gone anywhere. It wouldn't have. And even the artist knows it himself. He's humble and down to earth and going, it's not the song. It was the way we were able to get the song into so many ears. And there's no way at the standing budget that they had at the time that could have worked. There are those magic moments, but a lot of what you may see as viral and out of nowhere, it may just begin to have motion, traction, a level of endurance. And then there's a story behind it about how it gets picked up and how we want to maintain. And this is what I used to do in Los Angeles. You want to maintain a certain look, a feel, something organic, even when it no longer is organic. And it's not that that's necessarily bad, but it can lead people down to understanding and thinking, oh, I can just do this or I can just do that. So circling back around, where I put the words in this title, patience and pressure, there are times to be patient when you want to fly forward. And there may be times inside of your story, your authority, the product that you have, where it's time to move and pressure through when you'd rather be patient. Many people will take a standpoint of, I just need to do it this way. It feels good to me. In that, it can end up feeling a lot more expensive. There was one reference a friend of mine said, I feel like all I need to do right now at the moment is just press the pause button. And to him, and an immensely intelligent dude, to him, what he saw in the motion, in the traction, was a simple pause. And then unpause, and everything moves again. But in the flow, in strategic motion, in the process blueprint, and at the same time in timing and understanding releases, motion, traction, where money can be saved, where time can be exploited. When I say exploited, I mean the positive way. Where releases can come and sit into dates and times where the same release at one point, and kind of circling back to this, the same release at one point with the same budget put right in the right day, in between other items so that it can move slowly above the fold, is going to have a much greater impact than doing it a month later, a month earlier. When you look at the strategies of not just going, okay, the product is done, the service is done, this thing is ready to launch, let's just get it up, get it out. Yes, there are quotes out there and there are famous people that said, just be imperfect, just throw it out there. But right now, so many other people are doing the exact same thing. And yes, there are ways to begin and move things and motion and get things up. However, if you just throw it up there without looking at the time frames, without looking at the temperature, what's resonating, competitive, comparative, even toxic, then you may end up putting something out and making an announcement because really, you only get that first chance to do that first launch. After that, to potential investors, to potential earned media, press, PR, publicists, they're seeing it as a second push and they're immediately wondering what went wrong on the first. So almost a laundry list to look at. There can be a mixture from looking at a launch date, not just to say, okay, I need to get this out by this point, but more so, if you're going for that time frame, what's going on around it? What are things that are relating, vicariously connected, indirectly connected, and not connected at all to the industry, the service, or the product you're about to launch? Is this the right time? I've mentioned to a lot of people as of late, the first week of November really is not a time to launch most products. Yes, there are a few products and services that may have impact, but the next couple weeks, they might be a little volatile. News cycles are not going to be pointing in the direction of new and fun things. And also, depending on the product, it might be exactly the opposite time of where you could do something better. I've mentioned to a number of people saying, depending on where they're at, that moving toward February might be a better idea. And this is not the rule for all, but here are a couple considerations. We have an election. And this is being recorded 2 days before November 3rd and released then. So we're going to have this election. We don't know right now if there's going to be a winner announced or if it's going to be a couple of weeks. Then we're going to go into the holiday season. In this holiday season, as we begin to track into Thanksgiving, on top of it, we'll have the toxicity of issues around government. We'll be going into time around gifts and holidays and all of that. Then it's going to come into a time, who knows what's going to happen in the streets. Then we get to an inauguration. Hopefully that'll be on time. Right after that, is it the Super Bowl? Are certain things potentially shut back down? Do things lean toward opening back up? And then you've got the Grammys. And then it starts to head into award season. Really right now, it really depends on your product. But putting out anything prior to February 1 right now as a full-scale launch may be a little tricky. Most anything, though, it really, I mean, there's certain things that may tie into, COVID for the holidays instead of home for the holidays, or, there are certain things that can align. It's not everything. But a long-term play for a lot of businesses right now, maybe that are in a new stage, that are ready to launch, that have been built the right way, it may not be the right time to launch right now. Also, what makes up of December, what makes up of November, in the ability to have time to really lay a foundation. There are a number of businesses right now that are not launching, that are going back to the process architecture. They're going back to the brand discovery. They're really layering stuff out. They're not attacking with content, but more so organizing and architecting and authoring content and preparing it so that there's a truckload available. So as soon as somebody has the finger on the pulse of what's going on, from presidency to anything else, to COVID, to all of this, that then there's a great attack plan. There's a great launch plan. There's an endurance of that. It doesn't mean, and I like to get away from this. I see some of these coaches, you need to post X number of times a day. If you're posting crap over and over again, sharing other things, just putting out popular stuff, what are the chances right now that so many people are ignoring you? They're unfollow. Okay, great. You're connected with them on LinkedIn, but they're unfollowing you. I'm not following half of the people I'm connected to on LinkedIn, because when they start following the I'm going to slam you with content to be seen, I'm tired of seeing the regurgitated, repurposed, brand licensed content that everybody's using the exact same way. So why should I look at it? So now in my unfollowing, to clear up my screen, I may miss their launch. I may miss something else that's put in between there. This also is not a time to say, okay, we're going to stand back and just blow up on content for exactly that reason. And I'm not the only one. Many people are disconnecting. And when they give off the view that they are not being strategically patient and being perceived as acting in fear, this results and resonates with existing investors and even potentially investors down the line. Your scale, your blueprint, the way that you set up this marathon, from the launch to getting things out there to how you maintain, it's important inside of your scheduling to think about not just the people that are directly involved, not just even the investors that you have, but the investors and the opportunities that you may have in the future. Because what many of them are going to do is they're going to go backwards. If not them, someone that works with them is going to look at the tone. They're going to look at the temperature. They're going to get a feeling of the taste of what you're doing and how you're doing it. Many times people do not want to, in these days, more often, look at some existing prospectus. They want to have a look at how things have happened. The actions that people take in a state of fear, in a state of trouble, showcase how people can do in a state of love or in a state of success. Many businesses and many investors, many people that are getting behind projects, are looking back 7-8 months. They're looking at how people are acting, because they know, wow, if these people can handle themselves and present and work and build and do it in the best way possible with what they have in the moment, in these troubled times, I feel, stating as an investor, more confident that in the best of times they'll be able to be just as good. That's the one thing I really take away from this whole experience, is learning a lot of the other sides of people, how they act and how they interact in fear, in harder times, in struggle. And I've seen some beautiful people shine. And I've seen some people where I've only seen them in great states, in great levels of success, in great levels of love. But when fear, when problems, when struggle hit, they went to the hills. They went insulting. They went to attack. They stepped away from their morals. They stepped away from their integrity to just try to survive. And yes, we all do need to try to survive, regardless of your level inside a business. But you can survive through this with morals, with honor, with integrity. And even in that, the structure, it's not that old prospectus or business plan. A lot of people are not making a decision on 278 pages of here's our 5-year projections. Because you know what? Those were out the window a couple years ago, and they're even more out the window now. They're looking at what is happening, what is being built, how is it being built, where are you putting in the time, how are you creating this, where are you saving money, where are you spending money, where are you taking the chances? In that structure, that can give a greater confidence and a greater essence of you, of your project, of what it is strategically. Of not stepping back and saying, well, I read this book by this guy and he said to do this, but maybe only 2 out of 10 things anywhere relate to what you're doing. Or I just want to take the time and let this thing simmer when it's a great time to explode out and move and go. All that we do when you're looking on a larger scale project, on an element of distribution, on an element of potential investment, all that we do and what we track is what others may be looking at to properly fund it or to properly support it down the line. It's sometimes stepping into a place of humility and going, okay, if it was just me and me alone, not what I want to do right now. But I can look at the metrics, I can look at the tactics, I can see the strategies, I can see the discovery, and I know that I'm going to have to do. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but I'm going to follow through, because then in doing that, the representation that you showcase for yourself, your project in the moment, and for next week, next month, next year, a couple quarters down the line, when somebody looks back, and they do look back, like I said, and see, this is how you acted at this point. Now they know they can be with you at that point and beyond. The series of strategies comes across an array that oftentimes is a lot wider than the simple success book or the simple singular story. You hear people leaving out so many of the elements, and it guides people into the wrong directions and into the wrong hands. There is an element about trusting your gut, but also there's an element of inside your gut, inside of your intelligence, of taking and simmering all the information, all the intelligence around you that includes the metrics of the time, the temperature, the tone, the tactics, the taste, looking at the competitive, looking at the comparative, and realizing whether it's setting up certain work to be done to rush to a launch date correctly, or it's being patient and humble and saying, okay, this is not the time. I need to step back, and I need to step back for a while because of all these same elements. Then that's the way to go there. And it makes for a strange time. I mean, I was joking with a friend last night. I was saying we're hitting a time point where there are more people that can teach you how to be a leader that are not leaders, and they've never been leaders, than many of the leadership roles that are available or that are out there. It seems like it's the same thing with the business success. And I'm not even trying to be sarcastic here. It appears more people that have never experienced success, and this is not toward all coaches. There are some moral, ethical, authentic, and authoritative coaches, but it does feel like there are more business coaches or business success coaches out there that have never experienced success beyond completing a certification to call themselves a success coach than many of these entrepreneurs that are looking for success. There's so much hearsay, half-truths, expired truths, former hype across the board. And I only bring that up to circle back to this. Look at where it's time to be patient. Look at where it's time to put on a little bit of pressure. Consider having a moment to look at everything outside of the scope of what you see it. And maybe it's not hiring a coach, but maybe it's hiring somebody for a moment to audit it and say, is this right? Or even the coach to vet the coach or the strategist that you're working with. Double check that intelligence. Yes, it's good to get things out. Yes, sometimes you have to start a little uglier. But in times like right now, where some of the people that were able to start with so little, they may not be showcasing a path that can work for you. Now, on the other hand, maybe they are. But if you're not taking the time to vet, to do your due diligence, to practice, to check this stuff out for yourself, it might run you into trouble. So inside of the strategic patience and pressure of your launch, know that sometimes you may have to be more patient than you want to be. And that's going to be the best thing possible for your product, your service, your system, or whatever. And there are other times you may have to feel a little bit more pressure. You might have to move a deadline up because you find a window that is absolutely the best that you can tell for the moment that it is. And who knows, maybe it falls apart. We've seen so many things that were strategically organized. But when we step in motion of authority, authenticity, and intelligence, when we carry ourselves down a path as prepared as possible, then even as problems strike, even as things may change, we are prepared to redirect, re-engage, and reignite again, as opposed to just pushing gently or waiting until the perfect time, which sometimes is never. In our humility, matched with our authority and our drive, with the most intelligence possible, from there, the best decisions for you, not anyone else, can be made on the timing, on the team, on the temperature, on the tactics, and on the taste of what you're creating, so it can launch at the best time to save you the most money, to save you the most hassle, to amplify your message and your product or your service to the best and greatest audience possible. Then and there, you'll know you're on the right track. And even if something blocks that track, with everything you have behind you prepared, from the process architecture to the blueprint, to everything that you've organized to prep for that, it will be that much easier, if need be, to prep for another time, as opposed to just dropping a whole bunch of stuff out, hoping for here, pushing too fast, waiting too long, so on and so forth. Yes, you want to get it out there. Yes, there are a lot of people that say, wait till it's perfect, to the complete opposite end of the spectrum of get it all out now. But the answer for you, the individual answer for you, the best answer for you, is to get all the intelligence together so that you yourself, based off of the intelligence, the metrics, and that information, can make the decision that will be best for you, best for current investors, best for future investors, best for the story as a whole, so that in that launch, regardless of how big or how small it goes, it can have a rippling and resonating impact into the future to continue to connect you with the right clients, the right customers, the right investors, the right media, and so on and so forth. Take that time to organize that time in a way that works for your story, your authority, your messaging, and your product, and not creating a system or a launch pad for someone else.
Wait, what? Really? Okay.
Okay.